It's my honor to introduce to you Mr. Rajesh Purushottam, Head People Excellence, Sterilite Technologies. Sir has over 4 years of experience in HR consulting and has consulted over a dozen organizations across wide range of industries and built successful brand equity in consulting within India, Mauritius, Dubai and Singapore. Sir has done postgraduate in personal management from NIPM Kolkata and graduated from NITIE campus Mumbai. Presently, Sir is working as project consultant on the feasibility of back office operations for Air Mauritius. Sir has also helped top management in aligning TQM and client identity and drive quality net income projects. Sir, the stage is yours.
I know it's been a long day for you, so being the last speaker is always a challenge to get your attention. I know you've been listening and sitting patiently for the last, 8 hours. So that's why I said that I don't want to take the podium. I want to kind of, come more for a storytelling session. So I'm here to really leave you with a few thoughts. Just leave you with some questions. And I think you're smart enough, and first of all I would like to thank Professor Bala for inviting me. Thank you, sir. I know Professor Bala now for the last almost 15 years from the time I started my career. Very fortunate that he gave me an opportunity when he was co-founding SIMS to run an OD course, and I head organization development for Sterilite Technologies, part of the Vedanta group. And the subject has always been kind of fascinating, and thanks to Professor Bala. So, those days it was always a done thing to be invited as a faculty while you're working. And my request to you is also, if you get an opportunity to teach while you're working, I think that is something which will enhance your knowledge. So I'm right here, standing here also because I took that opportunity and I thought that made sense at that point in time. So what am I here for? So I want to really leave you with this particular perspective on something called as global skills. So how many of you have heard something called as global skills? What do you think it can be? Anybody want to just explain to the group, to the large audience, of what is this whole new competency called global skills? Any guesses right now? Does it make sense? Global skills, yeah?
It refers to the capable of inculcating the understanding of cultural differences between the countries across global and develop yourself to be capable of dealing with them.
Very good. Can we give a good hand? What's your name? Umang. So just to take forward what Umang has just said, is that while you understand the cultural differences and you work around it, the next thing is to make sure that you take advantage of the global opportunity that is in front of you by understanding the cultural differences. See, if you're just sitting here to do an Indian job, I don't think there's any Indian job left. What I mean is, there was a time when we would be constrained by the borders of the map of India and saying that, this is, by and large, you don't expect that not too many foreign companies come here to hire. But we are not talking about that. We talk about global skills, which means that Indian companies are going out and becoming multinational. One of the companies that I represent is the Vedanta Group. So I'll not be talking much only about Vedanta, but if you look at Aditya Birla, you talk about all the great Indian companies today are all talking about going what I could call as reverse multinational, which means that going and creating big enterprises. So the company that I come, where my founder started this company way back in '83 as a scrap metal dealer. Okay, and today is the 4th largest metals and mining company in the world. 2012 is not long ago to build a 70,000 crore billion, 30,000 crore rupees, okay, fire. What it means is there is an opportunity. And guess what? You know what's his qualification? No, he's all of 10 standard. He is just an SSC. So what is that which, and it's not luck, it's not lottery, it's not that he came from with a silver spoon. Once when I go across, that the whole shift is to try and be an employer while you're an employee. Which means that every assignment that you look at is to be an opportunist, is to leverage the maximum that assignment can give you. And what are the kind of balance sheet that you're building? What it means is what are the kind of skill sets and competencies that you're building so that you're preparing for that day when you are going to be generating jobs. Which means that there are companies today giving you more and more opportunity to kind of become an entrepreneur in the company itself. And it's the company's onus to retain you and not the other way around. So how can you be that in that hot skill category where the employer looks at you and saying that you could kind of be lost to a competitor and be the competitor. So it's no longer a kind of a world where you get into a job and then you just kind of think that you're just going to kind of wait for your time-bound promotions. It's not going to happen. Okay, the rules of the game are changing and so many speakers would have told you, but I want to leave you with this perspective, which I'm just going to share with you, is this whole thing of global skills. So basically global skills is that Indian manager who looks at the market as world, as a globe, and says that my skill sets will fit any of the countries. It's not about wining and dining, it's not about meet and greet. It's far beyond that. Do you understand the behavioral code, or there's a new terminology called behavioral economics, which kind of impacts your decision and other decisions on you in a multicultural context? So do you have that kind of intelligence about other people, the other cultures, and how do they kind of operate? And many times when you are sent on assignment, or even if you're while in India dealing with the countries there, nobody is there to train you, nobody is there to teach you. You'll have to go to Google, you'll have to talk to friends or some seniors, and you'll have to figure it out how you deal with it. Because there are no books. But there are some experience which others have and you don't have. But can you put it together? So how do you do it? So I'm leaving you with a case study, and there is one organization in India which has done it. Which has done it where the world has come here to find out that what is the method in the madness. Yes. So we call these people over. Okay, we had a global sales and marketing conference where we had people from 12 different nationalities. So Sterlite has global offices and we hired Americans, Europeans, Africans. So we are, it's very interesting to know that when we had it in Ambi Valley, and it's like you have them as employees. So when you have employees and you're the employer, and what do you inspire? Because it's often we do not want to give an example of America to them. We don't want to give an example of how great Europe is to them. We want to give an example of what is. So we really went deep down, and our global sales and marketing head is all of 36, and he came out with this idea and saying that it's the Dabbawala. So the Dabbawala actually got celebrated when Prince Charles came to India. And even till that time, they were just like, yeah, we know what. Okay, but again, that's the fallacy, that there has to be somebody from outside who has to come and recognize them, and then we all run towards them. Then companies like us then want to call them and find out what's the secret sauce of how they run the operation. Okay, so just to kind of putting this into perspective, there are things which history has taught us, and my presentation is just made a little pictorial, is to really look at it. That why we need to look at the world and a little bit of history before we look way forward. So sometimes in order to go forward, we must look back and reflect, and that's my perspective. So before that, one of the things when you look at it from a global skills perspective, is even when you look at day to day, how do you decode? What is that you infer? So today you don't have time to read a book on global skills, but you have a lot of information. You have a lot of information overload. So what is that you take away? So let's look at this particular slide, and we see that every time, you look at, say, Sachin Tendulkar. Okay, then what is that we take away from? Okay, we take away self-belief, focus, discipline and dedication. So we talk about longevity or longevity. So business needs longevity. So business needs to have a model which has kind of Sachin Tendulkar. Okay, so we read about the great Federer, Roger Federer. And what is that? Winning is not the end. Consistency is the way forward. Okay, we don't know. How many of you know which country he comes from? Japan. Okay. So, China. Decode the mystery behind the mighty dragon. So, what is that you learn from China and America? What do you learn from America? America is all about change. They cause the change in the world. So it's important that you're flying by Lufthansa and you're going to the US and you have somebody next to you and he's the CEO of a company and he starts talking to you. Can you strike a conversation? He doesn't bother whether you're junior or senior. But that's an opportunity for you to kind of really understand things that's a part of global skills. So what do we do as Indians? Either we tend to please in terms of the normal meet and greet and we will not come to the point, or then we prefer to be quiet. But a global skill means that irrespective of your position, that can you pick up from any of this, like you just say that, the French Open was great and you start with Federer, and when you talk about Federer, obviously, what are you going to talk, other than his name and the sex that he won or lost, whatever. But it's all about some characteristics. So it's all about understanding that whatever information we get, how do we decipher this information? What's happening in Syria? What's happening in the Middle East? What has that got to do with shifts in the economy? What has got to do with the shifts that impacts me? Today it's impacting you, it's impacting all of us. Okay, so are we kind of sensitive in this journey of knowing global skills? Okay, so for example, I put one of our presentations, is that today business, okay, and I just want to just put it as a snapshot, that business is not just only about the financial perspective. Okay, so in one of the global skills one is you need to have these four things always when you're looking at world markets. Is that one is what's the financial perspective, what is the customer perspective, what's the internal process perspective, and the people perspective. These are the four important perspectives that you need to know. So if somebody talks to you about any kind of a market, oil and gas, metals and mining, whatever, these four perspectives are some of the things in your mind when you need to have a construct to kind of really understand from these four parameters. So if you're in business, irrespective of the function or discipline, one of the things is to inculcate. When I was going around your campus, I saw, international business, HRD, that's good for a professor to run it with a lot of depth. But from your point of view, you'll have to know all the four buildings. You'll have to know all the four disciplines like this. No longer can an HR person say that I will only look at the people perspective of the slide. I put it deliberately. Nobody can say I will only look at the marketing or the finance perspective. Internal processes are mostly related to manufacturing or operations or supply chain. You cannot say that. Can you appreciate the slide in its entirety such that a marketing and an HR person can be able to talk about this slide with equal confidence? That's global skills. Nobody bothers that you're an HR specialization or a marketing specialization. They don't give it. But when you look at an American CEO who's a 12th standard high school dropout, he will talk about this plus 5 times more than this. Why is he able to do it? For the simple reason, there are no disciplines of finance, HR in his mind. For him, it's like what Steve Jobs says, it's connecting the dots. Okay, so let's take a pause to reflect back and learn from history. Because working in a global skill is a journey like this. You really don't know what you're heading for. So during this time, You've left college. So first thing is unlearning. Can you unlearn to really come and say that, I have the entire world in front of me. I have an opportunity here, right here. Okay. So just coming is, sorry. So it began 2,000 years ago with one man, one brick and a vision. And a vision to build the largest arena in the world. And it still remains to be. Okay. So it's called the Colosseum, one of the world's foremost architectural marvels. A structure that can accommodate 50,000 spectators. The massive building was built quickly and efficiently. All of this done to the highest artistic standard and in a highly skilled manner. Okay. So one man, one vision, So the reason behind the expansion of the Roman Empire, great leadership. A great vision. Trust, experiences and teamwork, diversity. Okay, and this was at a time when it was a very, very rigid society, very hierarchical. So what happens is, do we know that even when we are looking at markets, do we know a little about these countries? Do we know a little about what this is? If somebody says, or somebody asks you what's a Colosseum, you can't say that I had bad marks in history. Oh, I really don't know history. I'm a business manager student. And I'm showing it to you deliberately, I'm just trying to show you to connect the dots. Is that it means that you have to understand history. If you have to do business, you have to know history. Right or wrong. Okay. You need to get a flavor of the markets. You need to have a connect with your markets. Or you need, before you connect with your assignment. Okay, and the markets means that even as an HR student or an HR practitioner or a finance practitioner. Okay. Then came USA. Okay. So what about USA? When you look at business, do you know the business context of how US has worked? Okay. From the time when they came out, when Henry Ford came out with the T model. Anyone of you who knows the famous Henry Ford saying, or who really kind of first brought this word monopoly into perspective? Anybody? Henry Ford. He's the first man who said, when somebody asked him, can you have, he used to always make one color. He used to make a black. Yeah? So what did he say when somebody asked him if he can have any other color? He said you can have any of the colors so long as it is black. Okay, that was the level of, he's the one who brought mass production, okay, into the world. The T model or whatever, the famous model. And you have various stories. But if you look at each of the stories, it's all, you can see the words. Hardworking, highest standard of living in the world, maverick entrepreneur, of course. Then you talk about Apple, and then the rest of it. Apple, Facebook, Google. It's very important to not just know the names, but just know that what made them the way they are. So when you're dealing with America, what he knows. Okay, and he was talking management. He was not talking about how the ball are sent and back. He was talking about what makes the organization, and you can see that even the people there really kind of asking him genuine questions, because the Americans and the Europeans were simply not able to fathom that you can have consistency in quality, cost and reliability without IT, without a mass production kind of a system, without, just purely on what we call as human logic. So do we have it in us? So even if we say jugaad, for example, today there are American professors studying about this whole word called jugaad, which the Americans call as frugal innovation. So today, when they come to India, they realize that you cannot come with a full-fledged product which was made for the US market, but then just by removing the bells and whistles, you can try and sell it in India. It does not work. You have to think like an Indian and start from zero, start from scratch. So we have the natural ability for jugaad. Can we not leverage it? Can we not leverage it for what we have, and why do we have to impress somebody else? Or why do we have to, but can we use that strength and come out with certain innovation or certain ways of working, which others can, which maybe a Chinese cannot think, which a European cannot think. They simply cannot even imagine, but are you aware that you have that strength? as long as you mean good. Because anytime jugaad means that at times it's unpredictable. Can it be replicatable? Can it be? So finally, my whole thing is that that is another skill that we have, that we can think multidisciplinary, we can think simultaneously. Because we look at cost at one end, we look at also quality. Quality in the sense that it's not great, we can just use at the end of the day. So these are some of the things which we can bring in our global skills, because we know that the others don't kind of get it easily the way we get it. Okay, we are able to size an opportunity, we also know how to kind of go about it. So these are some of the things which kind of happened, and I just wanted to show you the actual pictures that when this 12 nationals came to India, that they could imagine that an Indian company was able to make them feel like what it happens with any other American company or a European company. They felt more at home because they found that during this time not everything worked well. There were things that did not work well as usual. Okay, for example, one of the sessions we had was a drum. We call the drumming, there's a complete mass, you can see all the drums there, right? And the Europeans and Americans are fascinated. And they can't even imagine that there was a kind of a workshop on drums. And it's all about teaching the entire team. If you're all sitting, imagine you're all at drums and there's one master who's sitting and choreography support. So what it means is, this person who is a regional sales and marketing head, he thought, why should I do everything what they already know? Can I not do something which I know, and I know that they like it because they simply have no idea what it is. So that is where you really try to be yourself. And you are trying to really kind of at the same time look at it in terms of what you have and what others don't have. So finally, just to kind of not take a longer time, is to kind of really kind of believe is, all you need to do is to believe that we too can create history. Okay, and this is my final slide, is that we can create history by being who we are. We are in this mad rush to get all the American models and all the success stories. Okay, but the fact of the matter is, I want to just tell you that people sitting in this room, if they are ignited and if they are passionate and they're triggered in the right direction, we can have half of the people sitting here as employers, half of them, and simply not just getting lost with what will happen after 2 years or when the placement starts, but really thinking from today, saying that what is that I can do to create this? And the reason I come and say here is that what we realize is that by the time you come to companies, HR people like ours will really not have anything to motivate you. Because when we look at the young India already comes from a certain level of affluence. So materialism is not going to motivate, money is not going to motivate. The only thing what is left for HR folks like us is to kind of give you what we call as find meaning. So right now, our focus and all these people who have come from morning to evening and presented in front of you is actually looking at you also as saying that what is that which will kind of keep you going? And what will keep going is to help you to find that meaning. So my session here also today was to all tell you that meaning means that not getting lost with the placement scenario. Is that even if good or bad, that can you kind of create history? And why don't you think that you can create history in a way that others, what I just showed you, just can? Thank you very much. What is repeat the question?
You mentioned about behavioral economics.
Yeah.
Can you throw more light on it?
Yeah. See, this is I would request you to actually study this word, behavioral economics, and that would impact by the time you come for jobs. And see what they have really studied, and whatever little I know and whatever I have researched, Behavioral economics is the way, finally, how markets are going to be determined by the way that collectivity thinks, or that those markets think and feel about products, services, okay, and will then their buying behavior and all that they do will be based on that. Okay, the classic example is the behavioral economics when it comes to retail in India. Okay, so what happens is the Carrefours and the Walmarts and all of them have finally studied, and this is again, behavioral economics again has come from the US, and they found that you cannot have a Michael Porter's model and you cannot have a sweeping change or a sweeping model that we see, 4 Ps and all that, because those are, they were there when the markets were more protected, or when they were very, very, I would say, specific. But what happens is, with this change in complexity, what they realize is that you have to be very, very, you have to go deep in terms of saying that what happens really. So one of the things they found that when it comes to India, there is a very, very high focus on 2 things. Okay, visualization. Okay, one is, okay, 3 things actually: visualization, okay, class, okay, and value for money. Okay, now let's just take these 3 words. All of you go to malls, right? Now look at all these 3 words. Okay, what happens is, all those malls there, one of the reasons is, and the same thing is happening with B towns and D towns and C towns, is that everybody wants to go to the mall, right? So everybody is there because you see those nice brand, glow sign, neon signs, everything, Louis Vuitton, everything. Everything is nice. You go in, then what happens is then there's also a class, okay, I've also come in. So if you ask the first timer who came in, he also feels good, it's like air conditioned and everything. But finally look at the buying decision. How many, see all those high-end shops? Do you see a crowd there other than sale? When do you see a crowd in a mall, in those shops there? Exactly. What happens on normal days, even on weekends and this? Hardly any, right? Because there is, what they are missing out is the value for money factor. So, behavioral economics says that they are telling the Carrefour people, they are telling all these guys, go to India for retail is good, but if you don't have value for money, if you don't have a product which is valued, and Indian rich will also not blow money, he will not throw money, he will buy planes, he will buy expensive stuff, he will buy everything. But because that thing translates it into a certain value, not for money, but value, which the person is willing to give that. But that same person is not going to apply that theory when the person is buying vegetables. Of course, that person doesn't buy vegetables, but even if his driver is buying the vegetables, and the person is sitting behind and they have actually done research, he will ask, bill kitna ho gaya? He would say that, the tendency is even for a very rich person in India, in fact, they would turn it out to be that, if you ask many of their domestic health, they will say that they are worst pay market. Okay, because it is not because he has money or he does not have money. That is the behavioral pattern of an Indian. That end of the day, we want that little extra. There's a little bit of that asking for that discount. Have I got a little more than the other person? Other person means that I should have got this, I should have got the best deal. Because negotiation is part of our DNA. So they are told very clearly, in a normal time it is 300% profit, during sale it is 100% profit. Then we feel good. 50% discount, then we go and buy. That is behavioral economics. So it is not just, so those set of behaviors during monsoon clearance sale is what economists are studying. So you will leave your class early and you will go, udhar ka sale hai, let me go and get it. You had money all year round. That is behavioral economics. Behavioral economics is whole thing on food innovation of the sachet shampoo. Now when C.K. Prahlad came with this theory, he came out with this whole thing that the poor are rich. Okay, that means they have what it takes to grow the economy and really grow it. And just to kind of tell you that the sachet shampoo, if it costs 1 rupee 35 cents, that poor laborer actually pays the celebrity cost of that endorsement. He pays Aishwarya Rai for that 3 crores that she is charged on the family. And the Aishwarya Rai cover is not for me and you because they sell that at cost to us, which is on the retail shelf. But that sachet is made in a tax-free zone, like a Silvassa or a Pondicherry or wherever. It is made at 40 paise. All put together, it still gives Hindustan Lever those kind of 60-70% margin. And he is the one who pays. But when it is sold to us, it is sold at cost. Okay, that is behavioral economics. To give you an idea, they found that the laborers use that because it gives a cooling effect to their head. So after standing in the sun for 8 hours, or after the whole day's of work, he comes home and he uses just to cool his head. So what these guys did is that they have put in a certain amount of chemical which has a cooling effect. You and I will not know about it. Unless, as sometimes ES students or as practitioners, we might use it if we are traveling. But we are not used to it. He is used to it. And what happens, they have adjusted the viscosity in a manner that he is able to keep it. When they studied the market research scheme, they found that he was using once a week. Now he keeps it, he is using 2 times a week. That is behavioral economics. So it's very, very important that by the time you reach out, you just can't come with sweeping statement and say that, yeah, I know this market, it is selling. It's not going to make sense. You will have to really kind of understand that how, and this means that you're a marketing student and you have said that, look, I wish I had learned a little bit of organizational behavior in my college, because if I had known that, then I could have been a little more better, but nothing stops you. But as a marketing person, you might have to know more about organizational behavior than an HR person. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that leave all those categorizations and classifications behind, because the markets and the opportunities in front of you are going to make anyone succeed. It will make even a 10th standard school dropout succeed better than you. In fact, he's at a better advantage because he's a clean slate. You are so cluttered with data that your server keeps hanging and you simply cannot move. Okay, so that is also part of behavioral economics. So anything and everything which is going to make it work or not work is going to be part of this study.